Well, hi everyone. This is Maria. I'm in charge of the marketing department here at Storage Made Easy, and I want to welcome you all to our new webinar where our presenter Jim Little will show you how the Enterprise File Fabric enables Microsoft Teams to be used with your own corporate data. Remember that you can leave all your questions at the question box, and we will get to them at the end of the demo. Also, we will be having James Norman in case, as we are all working from home and we may be having some broadband problems. In case that happens, we will have James Norman with us as well. So now I'm heading over to you, Jim.
Thanks, Marietta. Hopefully now you can all see my screen. So my name is Jim Little. I'm the CEO of Storage Made Easy, and today I'll be talking to you about the Storage Made Easy Microsoft Teams integration. So of course, one of the things we've seen through the pandemic in particular is the huge take-up of the Microsoft Teams product. For many reasons, obviously companies having to work from home or at the very least work in a hybrid fashion meant that they weren't able to get easy access to maybe what their normal software products and communication products were in-house. And Microsoft Teams indeed seemed to fill a gap in terms of it being if you like, a single pane of glass for collaboration. And as we've seen that grow, we've had more demand ourselves for to make our product work within Microsoft Teams, and we've enhanced that as we've stepped through the last 18 months. And what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about where we've ended up and what that enhancement looks like. I think the first thing that I'd like to do is just set the scene. So essentially, the aim of what we show you today is how we can enable frictionless, low effort integration with Microsoft Teams, so that companies can use low cost object storage and existing file storage to collaborate with not only each other, but also partners and customers through Microsoft Teams. And of course, there are many reasons for doing that. Teams itself provides their own storage and has some storage options, but they don't cover the gamut of storage that's available. And they certainly don't cover, object storage. So, when I talk about object storage, I can be talking about things like Amazon S3, Azure, Google File Storage, Backblaze, Wasabi, whatever the flavor of object storage is that you're looking at, and even on-prem object storage, such as things like Cloudian. From a file storage perspective, we're talking about SMB, NAS, SAN, Windows file shares, Nasuni, maybe containing data that is private that you don't want to put on cloud, or that has not yet been moved onto cloud that you still want to be able to collaborate with. A little bit about Storage Made Easy. We were founded in 2009. We're headquartered in the UK in a place called Sutton, which is just outside of London. We're over, obviously, 10 years old. The product itself is a mature product, and we mostly work with enterprise class accounts. In terms of the markets that we specialize in, it's a spread. We have a lot of media and entertainment customers, healthcare customers. Over the course of the pandemic, we started to get a really deep footprint in finance and government, and we also work with aerospace and defense, education, retail. So this, because of what we do with our product, which I'll talk about in the next slide, we really go across the gamut of markets in terms of applicability. In terms of our team, obviously we've got the UK team, that's where I am right now. We've also got people in the EU and also in the USA. So from our support perspective, we operate a follow the sun support. In terms of the product and how it works, well, the file fabric really is about providing a single namespace access to existing data. It doesn't ship with any data. It's a virtual software product. It can be deployed inside of a hypervisor, something like ESXi, VMware, or Hyper-V, or indeed you can actually just go to one of the cloud marketplaces and procure an instance on cloud, whether that's in Azure or Amazon or Google or something more specific. Once you've procured your instance, there's a little wizard to be able to connect the storage, very simple. And as soon as that wizard is invoked and the right credentials have been put in, we start to do what we call a smart inline index. That means, you know, we index the endpoint using applicable APIs, and then we populate our own metadata base without moving any data. The next step is we integrate the authentication system. An existing authentication system that is the norm, and that's normally the company authentication system. That can be an LDAP, an Active Directory, or some SAML derivation such as Okta or OneLogin, etc. Once all that's set up, the file fabric is able to provide that single namespace and a number of different abilities across those storage assets, whether that's real-time search, whether that's providing a single namespace cloud file server with integrations into a number of different apps, whether that's, you know, a common place for data governance and cybersecurity, or whether that is, you know, particular data services that are of interest, such as, you know, accelerating file transfers or helping with data tiering or making legacy data access possible. You know, you might want to get access to your object storage through SFTP because you can only do it through a medical terminal, something of that nature. So there's a number of things that the product provides, you know, once it's been set up. Today, we'll be particularly focusing on Microsoft Teams and how, once it's been set up, it is particularly very easy to be able to start to enable Microsoft Teams as that, you know, single namespace collaboration, you know, with access to the single namespace storage that the file fabric provides. So now we'll move on to a demo in which I'll show how that can be set up. And then after that, we'll jump back into the slides and we'll do a short recap.
Hey, Jim, there's just, while you flick over to the demo, there's just two questions that have come up related to what you were just talking about there at the start.
Sure.
You mentioned object storage. I see a question here about integration with the Hitachi content platform. Is that possible?
It is.
Okay, and do you have a list of you know, the different types of storage platforms the file fabric can work with in general?
And that's all available from our website. There's a link there. Maybe Mariado, who's hosting this chat, maybe Mariado, you can post it in the channel for people.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, so in this particular demo, we're going to be working with a fictitious company called Acme Files. And you'll see that, you know, one of the things, I'm here at my demo file fabric instance. You know, you'll see at the top, demo.sme.io. And one of the things about this instance you'll notice straight away is that it's been branded with the Acme corporate logo and branding. That's one of the things that the file fabric provides out of the box and extends it out also to the clients. For many of our customers, corporate branding is very important. And that's also very applicable to what happens within the Teams environment, as we're about to find out. You'll see that I've already got this set up to be able to log in through my fingerprint. So what I've done right now is I've logged into the file fabric as the highest level tenant. This is the tenant, you know, that normally would be potentially the IT admin who's configuring the file fabric for end use by end users. The only thing I'm interested in showing you here is the Microsoft Teams app. It's here where we can configure a dedicated Microsoft Teams application that can later be deployed by the Microsoft Teams administrator. So I can do things like name the app, you know, put the app description in, you know, upload my own icon, change the background color, you know, change the app image icon, etc. So it's very easy to go away and to generate this app on a, you know, per file fabric instance for your company. I've done that already, but what I did want to show you is just, you know, literally, it is literally just a few steps to go away and generate the app and then privately deploy it for your file fabric. What we've got here is the endpoint for the file fabric that you need to put in, you know, my particular endpoint. specific to where and how you deploy the file fabric. Once that's done, I can then use it within Teams. But before I do that, what I wanted to just show you was I'm now logged in as the tenant of the file fabric. So here I'm the admin of the file fabric itself, and as you'll see, I have this single pane of glass view of my storage assets. I see more here than an end user would because I can see everything. An end user would only see whatever you see with this little people icon on it. That means that that's being shared out, and either a role or a subset of end users have permission to that particular folder. Because I see everything, I can see all of the Amazon S3 files, and I can see all of the Amazon S3 sudo folders, and I can also see, for example, my my NASs, my London NAS, and another NAS SMB type product, Nasuni. So all of those are available to me as the administrator, and I can make decisions around how I want to share these things out. I also have my Teams app available to me. Now, like many of you who use Teams, you'll end up potentially with different teams, maybe a partner teams, and you'll end up with different channels within those teams. I've got a few channels here, and we'll be using those to demonstrate, what we can do with the Teams plugin that we've got from the file fabric. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to flick back to my actual demo environment, and I'm going to go away and create a share that I want to put back into Teams. So to do that, I'm going to focus on this Belmont Road construction. So if we go back to our Teams interface, we'll see that we've got a private channel here. It's called Belmont, and what I want to be able to do is to create a project files view for the people who have access to that Belmont channel, to be able to access the project files. And in this case, I have them stored on Amazon S3. That's going to be pretty transparent to the people who have access to that Belmont channel. They won't really know. They'll just see that there are files available for them on the Belmont project channel. To do that, what I need to do first of all is to highlight the Belmont Road construction folder, and then choose to share. Now you'll see that I've got a couple of options here. I could share it out to a team, with the first option, or I can create an MS Teams shared folder. I'm going to choose to create an MS Teams shared folder. And the difference between the two, by the way, is if I shared it out to a team, I would literally get a link, that when shared with somebody who's got their own Teams environment, it would open that link and pull them straight into the file fabric. Here, I'm going to actually share that folder out and pin it to a channel. As you can see, I have a few things that I can do here. One of which is to decide if I want to put any restrictions. The other is to decide whether I want to hide files, because I only want people to drop files in, or I want files to be, for example, uploaded. I'm just going to leave it as it is and decide to create that link, and I'm going to copy that pre-configured sharing code. So that's done. I'm going to flick back to my Teams environment, and I'm going to choose to this privately deployed Teams file that we talked about earlier is already here because we already deployed it, and it's called Acme Files because we branded it too. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to ask me what I want to do. Do I want a full file manager? So in essence, access to the file manager that we've just been logging into, the different tab, the full experience, just to make it easier not to keep flicking out of Teams, back to my file fabric environment. Or I want to actually pin a folder with a specific sharing code, and that's what we've just done. So I'm going to choose that I actually want to go to a specific folder for this channel, and I'm going to plug in, my sharing code. And I'm also going to name the tab to something sensible for people who come into this. So I'll call it Belmont Project Files. and then I'll save it. And straight away, you'll see that it gets pinned, and then I have the details available to me directly within the channel. Now, anybody who's invited to this channel will be able to get access to this particular set of files now. So even guests that you've invited. So what that means is that it's a pretty frictionless way to allow people to get access to this folder. And I can do this as many times as I want, with as many folders I want, to the different channels. I can make them read-only. I can make them read and upload. I can use the same folder, and share it with one, perhaps partner or customer, and make it read-only, and share it with another partner and customer, and make it read-write. Also, the things that the file fabric, gives you function here too. So one of the things that the file fabric is able to do is to accelerate uploads. So if you drag a large file into one of these folders, or one of the people who have access to the channel does that, then instantly, that file will be split into 4 or 6 parts, and it will be uploaded at speed. I won't do it today, only because I'm on the consumer broadband, and I don't want to disrupt the output of the video. I can go straight in, and I can start to look at some of these things. So I get the previewer in line, something that obviously you don't get in the normal files view within MS Teams, and I can do that for all of these actually. All of these that have previews, I can go away and I can simply get quick access. The other thing that I can do is, if I want to, is I can edit with any Office files. I can edit with Microsoft Office. So here we've got a contract document. We've already seen it in the preview. I believe that my session is logged in for Office. So I can still start to have my collaborative sessions with Microsoft Office from an editing point of view. I could be doing this with multiple parties who also have access to that folder. Key to note, though, is we're doing this against a file stored on Amazon S3, or indeed that file could be stored on Azure, or it could be stored on Google Storage, or it could be stored on Asuni. So it makes it very seamless and frictionless to still do the collaborative editing, even though you're doing it on storage that is not natively supported by Microsoft Teams, and you're also doing it on potentially what is low-cost storage. Of course, it's also possible, given the fact that we're using something like S3, it would also be possible to have, for example, tiering already set up to things like Glacier to age things out. So there's other added benefits and ways to be able to configure this. What we've got here also is you can actually share files. So if I wanted to talk about this with a customer or partner and make a specific reference to it, I can take this file link, I can copy it, and I can just paste it into the chat. And if somebody clicks on it, they'll be taken to the actual file, back inside of their Teams view. So it's very useful from that point of view. The other thing that is pretty neat is that, as I'm working with this, I can decide that I want to just flick open the comments tab, within Teams, and start to, make comments against this that will again be visible to the end users of the channel, literally through the Teams comments. So it's a very, very neat way of being able to work with some of this lower cost storage, some of your existing, data directly within Teams, within customers in a very flexible way.
Hey, Jim.
You'll also notice that.
Sorry to interrupt, Jim. While you're there, there's just a question, particularly about these files, why you're in this kind of folder. And the question is, if there's multiple people in these particular channels, can the others see the files that the others are sharing and collaborating with?
Yes, they can.
Great, thank you.
Bearing in mind the fact that you remember the option when we first shared that we had the option to hide the files. As long as that's not checked, then yes, they would be able to.
Thank you.
And there are times that you might want to hide the files. It's particularly if you've got partners just using it as a drop folder to send things up to you, and different partners have access to it, and you don't necessarily want to see what other people are dropping in. We have some use cases exactly like that. The other thing, so first of all, this is very simple, as I'm sure you'll agree. We haven't done much to be able to start to pin a folder that's available to any user within a channel, and that's backed off to perhaps S3, Azure, Google Storage, Amazon FSx, Azure Files, Nasuni, a NAS, a SAN. It has been very, very straightforward to be able to do that. And it is very, very straightforward to use. And obviously, we've got customers who've got hundreds of these channels, if not more than that. And they can easily pin these things up very, very easily and simply. Also, I've only talked about how we really pin the folders to the channels, but there is the possibility to get the full file fabric experience, directly within Microsoft Teams. So, for example, here you will see that this is the view that we had kind of over here. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that whereas over here it looks slightly different, it's the same, but it's been Teamsified, if you like, to fit in with the look and feel of Teams. So you'll notice that, whereas over here, we've got this thick bar with files and tags and search, etc. We still have those available to us, but now it looks much more effective, from a Teams viewpoint, because it fits in with the look and feel of how Teams expects to see things. And indeed here, if you want to go away and do some of these searches, you can do so. So you can start to do some of these more sophisticated searches on data directly within Teams, which starts to make a lot of sense, when you end up with, perhaps millions of files stored between maybe your file storage on your NAS or SAN and your object storage. In this case, I'll just go away and look for contract, a very, very simple term. And what we'll see is it'll come back quite quickly. And the contract here it's picking up is not only in the name, but if we step through it, it would also be picking up the contract in the actual content. And you can be very sophisticated with these. You can start to build in modification dates. You can say that you want to define it against particular metadata within the file. So it starts to make the ability to get visibility of data, much, much simpler and easier. It also works in a similar way through things like tags, if you've got tags defined. So if you've got tags across, different storage already coalesced, you can tag something on your NAS, something on your SAN, you can tag something on the object, and this will just simply collate it. So it's very, very straightforward. What I'd like to do now quickly is just to go back to the presentation and just sum up, what we've seen. So the first thing we saw was custom app generation. So I explained that each file fabric instance has the capability to generate this branded Teams app, and these apps can be deployed into the Teams environment, by the Teams admin. Really easy. Once they've been deployed, then it's very, very straightforward to create a share and pin a file fabric folder within Teams. As soon as you do that, you have access to all of the previewers. You can drag and drop files to be uploaded, downloaded. You get full access to that as you would expect. These project folders can be easily added as tabs to the different Teams channels. You can use them more than once. You can make them read-only. You can invite external participants. They don't need to know another login other than the login that they've already been created for them to get access to Teams. So it is a very, very frictionless experience. It makes the administration from an IT perspective very straightforward. We looked at how easy it was to create those shared folders. Very easy to share outside of Teams. We talked a little bit about searching the content within Teams, and we didn't demonstrate it, but it's very straightforward to drag and drop files directly onto that interface to be able to upload data very quickly. So we've got a little example there on the screenshot where a file's been dragged in, an MP4 file, and you can see that it's uploading in 4 parts, and that's exactly what a user would see. That works very transparently. So in summary, we've shown the file fabric providing a very frictionless mechanism to continue to use Teams as that single collaboration point, but being able to integrate data that you currently really can't in Teams today, which is file and object data. That could be on low-cost storage. It could be on storage that you don't really want to move to cloud. As Teams use grows and the data use grows, the potential for the cost-saving benefits on the storage tiers are very, very vast. You know, we've had customers who've managed to actually procure the whole file fabric just on the cost savings they've made of being able to use low-cost storage for some of the larger data sets that they have on Teams. Of course, because the file storage underneath the hood that we're using here supports much larger file sizes, it stops the restriction within Teams of being that 2 GB limit. And we have some customers who work with large media and data sets that are in the perhaps up to the 0.5 terabyte level sometimes in terms of the data there. And of course, we're not stopping what already exists in Teams. So it's very easy to continue to use SharePoint and Teams data where it's included for free. And of course, you're going to do that. It's free data, it's free storage. It's just not potentially what you want to use all of the time for some of those data shares that you're doing with customers, partners, and teams. At this point, I think I'm almost bang on the 30 minutes, so I'll open it for questions.
So there's a few questions here, Jim, we've got, and of course, if anybody would like to put additional questions in, we'll keep looking for those. So let me group one of them up. So a question about collaborative editing. Firstly, how does the collaborative editing work, and is that possible also through Teams?
I think that's what I showed in terms of the editing of the document through Office Online. So that was all through Teams. So in terms of I demonstrated that we had a document stored on Amazon S3. We right-clicked that document to edit it with Microsoft Office Online. If any other editors did the same thing, then you would end up in a collaborative Office Online editing session.
And I guess you could also do the same as well through the desktop Teams application as well, right?
You can.
Okay, and the other question I see here is about accessing an on-prem NAS device. So is it possible for the file fabric to connect to an on-prem NAS device? What sort of protocols would it use to connect to that?
So it is possible for us to do that. So it's possible for the file fabric instance to be deployed on cloud, for the obviously the NAS SAN device to be on-prem. We have a part of the product that I didn't talk about today, that might be the subject of a different webinar at some point in the future, that we call SMB Stream. SMB Stream provides a mechanism for us to connect at high speed to that SMB device on-prem without the need for VPN, but in a very secure way, and to make it available, on cloud in the file fabric and potentially through Teams, exactly how I've just shown it today.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And there's another question here as well. If people want to try and move off of the OneDrive and SharePoint space, how is there a way to disable, people putting files in there?
Yes. So right now today, the Files tab which you show, which I can quickly potentially jump back to. I'll leave it for now. The Files tab which you saw within Microsoft Teams, that's there by default. That's where the OneDrive and the SharePoint storage goes to. Microsoft are going to be providing a way to allow that to be disabled by Teams administrators. It hasn't quite been rolled out yet, but it will do at some point very, very shortly. At that point, I believe you can decide on a channel by channel basis whether you want that Files tab available or not. Of course, if you want to turn it off, then the only mechanism to actually add files would be through that FileFabric shared folder.
Okay, all right. There's also another question. I see a few more coming in now. How can people get access to pricing, and is there pricing for partners as well?
The answer is yes and yes in terms of, so the best way to get access to pricing is, on the screen now, which is go to Sales to Storage Made Easy, and that will just fan out to whoever the regional sales director is. And yes, we do have a partner program with special pricing for partners.
Okay, and sorry, one final question. It looks like, how does the FileFabric platform, what's its sort of resiliency? What happens if it breaks? Can it be easily brought back up again? Is it very resilient to run?
Yes, it can be configured to be very resilient. The FileFabric scales up and it scales out. So we've got customers. To give you an example, one of our biggest customers is in the United States, is running on AWS, and over the last 18 months has been processing, the COVID analysis workflows through the FileFabric, which has involved billions of objects and has to be always on, not allowed any downtime to be able to process those workloads. Same, with the finance institutions that we work with, it has to be up all the time. So that's just an architecture configuration, issue. The FileFabric can be deployed in what we call an all-in-one, or it can be configured to be highly resilient. In the case of it being highly resilient, in the case of a node going down, then another node is available and picks up.
Okay, all right. I think that's pretty much all of our questions there, Jim. Thank you.
At that point, I'll hand back to Mariado to close up and just thank everybody today. I appreciate you bearing with my hoarseness. Unfortunately, over the Christmas period and New Year period, I contracted COVID. Thankfully, I'm no longer positive, but it has left me with a bit of a hoarse voice, so apologies for that. And thank you for bearing with me. And Mariado?
Well, thank you all for attending. Again, if you have any questions, just feel free to email our sales team, and you can also find resources in our website and in our YouTube channel that we will also be sharing with you later on an email. So thank you all, and see you soon.